You probably know about Spider-Man 2099, but do you know the story of Carnage 2099? Today we're going to be exploring the series Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis, a story that has recently concluded at Marvel. If you're wondering where you are, you've found yourself at the Comicstorian channel, where we make audio dramas of your favorite comic books, allowing you to explore the world of comics and decide what to add to your collection. I'm Dan, and it's time to jump on in. The Black Cards have fallen. Once the ruling elite that could do whatever they wanted, the card system has been defeated by Spider-Man and his allies. Now, those that held the Black Cards are being sought out and killed by those that they once lived above. Michael Eric cowers in his once lush apartment as thugs try to beat in the door. "You want something? Shocking, take it!" he shouts. But the thugs don't want something. They want him. Eric realizes that there is only one chance of him getting out of this alive, and he glances over at a piece of the Venom symbiote that he has held onto all these years. He grabs it and shatters the glass, letting the reddish goo wash over him. The thugs outside his panic room suddenly step back in shock as they hear Eric scream in pain. The doors suddenly explode outwards, and a monster rushes them. They scream in panic as the creature of Carnage slashes and tears through them, leaving them dismembered on the floor. "This blood, I've missed it, missed the taste. I need more," Carnage bellows. Elsewhere, Spider-Man swings through the night until he is joined by the alien Spider-Woman, who brings news of an attack in the Skyrise district. "A break and raid, boss. Multiple dead," Lila informs him. Spider-Man heads to the former apartment of Michael Eric, finding the destruction left behind. "They've all been drained of blood," Miguel notes. Lila nods and checks through the records for Eric, discovering that he was a Black Card holder and used to be a major shareholder in Alchemax International. At the Alchemax building, an emergency meeting has been called, where Cecilson informs the other members that the Carnage symbiote has gone missing from Eric's vault. "My advice? Triage. Burn any connection to the Carnage cells. He's unstable. People cannot be allowed to know Carnage was Alchemax property. We can pass him off as a mutant. Oasis X already scares people," Cecilson notes. Nelson suggests deploying the newly created Public Eye Law Enforcement Service, while also jacking up the prices at hospitals so that those who do go end up owing more money. Cecilson nods and smiles. "If we can't control the chaos, we can at least make a killing off of it," he says. Meanwhile, Carnage has reached the Alchemax building, having amassed a small army of followers who agree with the chaos that he has brought to Alchemax and the rich elite of the city. Carnage's tendrils are lashing out against the security that surrounds the building, drawing blood and bringing the crowds to a frenzy. But Spider-Man leaps out of the air and kicks him in the face. "Plaza tour's over, gorgeous," Spider-Man shouts. Meanwhile, in Little Madripoor, the news cycles have begun to play, covering the attacks by Carnage and his clash with Spider-Man. Something awakens as lights begin to come on and a hollow projection comes to life, revealing a warrior with a flaming skull. "Way to go, Spider. Time for the adults to step in. For this Carnage, he's gone and woke the Ghost Rider," the futuristic Ghost Rider says. At Alchemax, Spider-Man leaps through the air. "Come play, spiders! Bring more! We're all here! Feed us! Feed the hive!" Carnage snarls. But Spider-Man slams against the back of his head and kicks him to the ground. "I don't play," Spider-Man snaps. Spider-Woman leaps amongst the crowd, disarming the rioters before they can hurt anyone. Spider-Man slashes into Carnage with his claws, but one of the wild swinging tendrils stabs him through the leg, dropping him to the ground. Carnage smiles as he licks the blood from his weapon. "Your blood! There's something special in there. I'll bathe in it, savor it. I'll drink you dry." Carnage snarls as he cracks the ground beneath him and disappears beneath the city. Spider-Woman swings down and grabs a hold of Spider-Man, telling him that they need to leave before security reinforcements arrive. The crowd is safe for now. They're disorganized and confused. None of it will last. Neither will you without human medical aid, the alien points out. Spider-Man finally agrees, and Spider-Woman grabs him and swings away. Meanwhile, on the moon, the Crescent Crypt has been awoken, and Moon Knight watches the riots in Nueva York. Not a single cry, but thousands. The screams of the just, pushed beyond by one who'd make a mockery of their cause. Vengeance, an art none have mastered like the Moon Knight, Moon Knight whispers. In the city, Miguel has arrived at the hospital, but he is shocked by the riots he sees. He rushes forward as security begins to push the sick and elderly away, shouting that the hospital has become a service for platinum card holders only. Miguel tries to fight against the security forces, but is already weakened from his fight with Carnage and blood loss. One of the guards cracks him across the face and throws him to the ground. Blackness overtakes him as Miguel falls unconscious. Meanwhile, at the Gold Cove Apartments in Manhattan, Aaliyah Bell is waiting for her father to get home. He is one of the security forces at Alchemax, and she watches the riot on the news, scared for her father's well-being. Suddenly, the door opens to reveal her father, wounded in the fight against Carnage. He falls to the ground, explaining that he tried to go to the hospital, but they turned him away. "It's okay, Dad. It's all gonna be okay," Aaliyah whispers. She begins to talk to her other, demanding that the creature seal her father's wounds, promising that if it does, Aaliyah will allow it to take over. The black symbiote does as it is asked before wrapping around her. "I did save your life. Only fair that you share it. Besides, you saw the news. Aaliyah Bell has no place out there tonight. Tonight belongs to Venom." The symbiote snarls as it takes full control. Beneath the streets of Nueva York, Blade finishes creating a new batch of synthetic flesh. He pulls it from the machine and begins to munch on it when a call comes through. "Sorry to interrupt your snack, Doctor. I've got a patient," the voice says. In Alchemax, the board begins to stand. Cecilson tells the others that Carnage is heading for the core where he was held. He can't be allowed to access our most dangerous technologies. He orders the others to retire to their panic palaces and promises to deal with this situation. As the others leave, he turns to the guardsman nearby. "Who's up for a slaughter?" he asks with a smile. Meanwhile, Miguel finally sits up, gasping as he looks around in confusion. But Spider-Woman stands nearby with the Ghost Rider. She explains that she retrieved Miguel's wounded body and brought him to the rogue AI. Miguel is shocked that the AI was able to save his life, but Ghost Rider shakes his head. "I didn't save it. Physical anatomy bores me, so I called in an expert," Ghost Rider explains as he motions to the shadows, revealing Blade. Meanwhile, in Alchemax, Carnage has arrived in the underground labs, his tendril blades and tail cutting through the guardsmen that stand in his way. He breaks through a door and peeks his head inside. "Time for a taste of home," he laughs as he leans his head into the lab. "Anyone else wanna go out?" he asks. Looking at Flipside, Carnage walks up to the creature in the tube. but a voice calls to him from the door. Third generation recovery unit, a hunter, killer, and retriever, Cecilson notes. Carnage doesn't bother responding, and his tail flicks out and cuts Cecilson's head clean off, allowing the bloody body to tumble to the floor. A short time later, he throws the bodies of Cecilson and his guardsmen through the window, allowing it to land amongst the crowd below. Nueva York! Do you want to see justice? Do you want the elite to bleed? Alchemax is just the start. They can't stop us. Not together. They can't stop the Hive. Carnage bellows. And his followers cheer, and the riots begin again. Back in Ghost Rider's chambers, the group of heroes discuss the city tearing itself apart. Miguel was shocked that people would actually follow that maniac. Ghost Rider shows them a hollow projection from Alchemax, explaining that Carnage was developed as a treatment for blood diseases and cancer. But the cells proved too aggressive, and the program was ended, with the remaining cells being given to an Alchemax shareholder who stored it in his private vault. Michael Eric, Spider-Woman notes. Miguel nods as he pulls his costume on, explaining that Eric is now the host for Carnage. Eric was a black card. Those people are nothing to him. Never have been. He'll get them all killed and laugh about it. I need to be out there, Miguel says. The heroes come up with a plan as Ghost Rider explains that Eric's body is dead and merely acts as a vessel for the symbiote, which needs blood to survive. He explains that if the heroes can lure Carnage to the ghost chamber, Ghost Rider will be able to starve the human blood in the creature's system of oxygen, and it will die. Nasty, but it could work, Miguel notes. Meanwhile, in Alchemax, Cecilson's headless body suddenly stands as the head begins to laugh at Carnage. Not human, Carnage notes as he turns back. Cecilson shakes his head on the ground. Human? I'm an executive. But not only that, I'm Alchemax made, like you. I've been around, poisoning wells, sowing unrest. It's the only real mischief left in the world, he says as his body begins to transform. Cecilson, Boone, Loki, I wear names and skins like hats, but none of them have ever fit as snug as Halloween Jack. The Mischief Goblin laughs as he takes on his true form. Carnage is confused, trying to figure out why Halloween Jack is there and why he isn't trying to kill him. But Jack shrugs and explains that Carnage amuses him, that he can help him work his hive into a blood frenzy. I can get them foaming. You'll have your blood until you're sick of the red stuff, Jack says. And what do you get? Carnage questions. Jack walks across the room and activates the flip side unit, allowing it to pull free of its stasis tube. I get to watch, see terror, wreak havoc. I'll feed your hive, he says. Carnage nods, explaining that he wishes to feast on the blood of Spider-Man. Jack nods and motions to Flipside. I know just where we can find it, Jack says. Meanwhile, in the streets of the city, Venom is working, cutting through the rioters that are preying on the innocent of the city. She slams one into the wall, breaking his bones. Another begs for her to stop, and Venom reaches a claw out for him. Why? Did you stop when your citywide tantrum pulled innocence into its crossfire? Venom asks. But a sonic blast slams Venom into a nearby wall. Dazed, she looks up to see the new public eye officers aiming weapons at her. City's got enough problems. Don't need you stirring the pot. I suggest you stay down, the officer shouts. But moonblades suddenly sail through the night air and cut through the officer's knees, dropping them to the ground. I suggest you stand down, gentlemen. Venom is now in the care of Moon Knight, Moon Knight says as she lands on the street. Are we? Venom asks as it stands back up. Meanwhile, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and Blade are moving through the city, with Miguel asking Lila to help them pinpoint the wave of violence so that they can get ahead of it. Parties downtown. Social feeds are screaming, Lila informs Miguel. He nods, knowing that it makes sense that the violence would be focused on the highest profile black card victims. Hard to find higher black card victims than the Avengers, Spider-Man notes as the trio looks down on the crowds that surround the Avengers Memorial. Miguel's eyes widen as he sees Halloween Jack standing there before Carnage's hive. Jack is working the crowd into a frenzy, reminding them of what the Black Card elites did to the Avengers, how they have acted without consequences for too long. Our monster is more than ready to fight back, but he needs you, so stand with him, with us. Be a part. Let Carnage be your justice, he shouts with glee. Carnage appears at the top of the memorial as the crowd begins to chant to feed the hive. Jack smiles as he smears blood on his own face. Tell me, who wants to see red? He yells. In a secure server, the board members of Alchemax are now meeting in a virtual space, discussing how Cecilson is dead and Carnage has breached the core. They know what must be done to contain Carnage and the violence that is spreading through the city. Send Gallows. He's untested and violent. But what other language does Carnage understand? Mr. Nelson says with a sigh. At the gathering of the hive, Carnage slashes his own wrist and rains his blood down on his followers. They gather around him, cheering him on and begging him to fight for them against the elites. Your losses are mine. I'll gut everyone who's hurt you, he bellows to them. On the rooftops above, Spider-Man, Spider-Woman, and Blade watch on. We've got to get down there. They won't like it, but we can't let people do this. Can't let them be this, Miguel says to his friends. The crowd has begun to drag victims to Carnage. Those who hold higher ranking cards in the city, but who don't want to harm anyone. Well, I do, but let's not leave it up to me, Carnage growls at them. He turns to his followers, who cheer him on to murder the gold card holders. You heard them, little pig. Ready for a long, slow tour of your insides? Carnage asks with a smile as he leans in. But Spider-Man is there, slamming Carnage and knocking him to the ground. The crowd begins to push back as Spider-Woman and Blade drop in, not wanting to tangle with the superheroes. But Superman's on our side. He took out the Black Carters for us, someone shouts in confusion. Carnage kicks Spider-Man away, sending him into a nearby building. The Spider's not one of us. Not anymore. He's a choice meal, Carnage growls as he gets to his feet. Miguel begins to struggle out of the rubble of the building. Okay, that wasn't my favorite thing, he gasps. But Flipside is suddenly slamming into him. Primary target acquired, the robot says. The grinder in its face reaches for Spider-Man's flesh. Below, Blade steps in before Carnage, his sword already drawn. You want blood, beast? Try for mine, the vampire hisses. Elsewhere in the city, Moon Knight and Venom stand before the public eye officers, with Venom stepping forward to finish the job. Try to understand. We just want to know the fastest way inside your heads, Venom snarls. But Moon Knight puts a hand on her shoulder, ordering the symbiote to stay in her hand. Hold, Venom. These men are beaten. The only death I've come for is Carnage's, she says. She tells Venom that the officers of the public eye are not members of Carnage's hive. That doesn't lessen their crimes, but it may postpone their sentence, Moon Knight says. But gunfire erupts among them, bullets piercing Venom, Moon Knight, and the officers all at once. Command, I am on site. Initial targets pacified. Further targets acquired. I exist to serve, a robotic voice calls as it surveys the scene. Back at the memorial, Flipside tries to grind into Spider-Man's face. But Miguel shifts out of the way and drives Flipside's face into the building before knocking him away. Sorry to jam you up, Flipside, but I'm off the menu, Spider-Man says. Below them, Spider-Woman and Blade are fighting against Carnage and Halloween Jack. But Carnage knocks the other heroes away. Spider-Man lands among them and reminds his friends that they need to lure Carnage to the Ghost Rider's chambers. Flipside once again leaps at Miguel, but it is stopped as a golden chain and moonblade stabbing into its head. The robot is ripped away, revealing Moon Knight and Venom. Tonight, the automaton goes unfed, Moon Knight calls. Venom's tongue flicks through the air. Not us, though. Our feast's just beginning, she snarls. The heroes all join in the fight as the hive rushes around them. Spider-Man leaps through until he is facing Halloween Jack. You're a leech, Jack. Why turn these people to Carnage? Spider-Man demands. But Jack just smiles at him. I didn't, Spider. How long have you tried to help them? How much has changed? You've got rules. Carnage gets results, and he doesn't tell them to play nice. Jack laughs. But Miguel hits him hard, slashing him across the face and kneeing him. Blade stabs into Carnage's chest before the creature leans in and bites him on the shoulder. But Blade slashes his sword free, allowing blood to spill from the monster freely. Carnage staggers away, trying to stop the blood flow. Shocking chest wound! Heart slowing! I need! Carnage gasps. Halloween Jack turns, shouting that Carnage needs blood now. Carnage falls to the ground, the blood of his fallen hive pooling around him, infecting the blood of his followers and the fallen alike. The heroes all turn in surprise as the fallen begin to rise, their torn flesh now on display, and their faces pulled into vicious smiles as they prepare to fight. And that is where we are gonna end today's story with Spider-Man 2099 Dark Genesis. I hope you guys enjoyed this and enjoyed my crazy voices, cause my goodness did those hurt my throat, so I really hope they were worth it. And if you did, please be sure to leave a comment down below, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel, and of course, click that bell icon to make sure you get notifications when new videos go live. I'm Dan, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time.